the devs said they wanted to make Guess 1337 less oppressive and more team orientated. What they actually did was make him weaker in pubs, more of a clip farmer, stronger in comp of course, and probably just as annoying for killers. Let's go through it. So now the question is, what were the devs actually trying to fix? Now, the philosophy that they laid out was pretty straightforward. Guess 1337 was designed as a damage-soaking team sentinel. But what he ended up as is one of the best survivalists in the game, and also played very, very selfishly despite what he was meant for. Blocking moves like Demonic Pursuit, Walk Speed Override just made the killer fly through you and hit whoever teammate was behind you that you were trying to protect. And on top of this, he was a very matchup dependent sentinel. For example, being able to charge minions meant he could just completely get rid of your 50-second cooldown anti-loop. And having matchups like this made him completely insufferable, and the community has been annoyed with him for months in one way or another. That needed fixing, and that is not a debate. The question is whether they actually shipped something that fixed it, or they just moved the problem onto another part of his kit. I'm gonna have to be a bit more simplistic than I'd like to, obviously, to not make this drag on for way too long, so let's go through the killers very fast. Cool Kid in Sixer, he's just objectively worse. Block no longer covers Walk Speed Override or Demonic Pursuit. Against Cool Kid, you're just gambling on a 0.1 second M1 wind up, and then against Sixer, obviously it's 0.3, but still, you lose ground because you can't block the super dash moves. Noli is helped by this, but not as much. Of course, not being able to block Void Rush is very big, but the fact you have a very reactable M1 means Guess can just farm blocks off your M1 instead, and obviously you get Overheal, it's a shorter cooldown, not a good day to be Noli still. Now against like Slasher and 1x, Guess is just doing better basically in every way besides a small few. For Slasher, you can't block B-Head or Gashing Wound anymore, which is a pretty big downside for B-Head, but no one has ever thrown a Gashing Wound unless you already whiffed your block. Now, besides that, Slasher gets bullied by your extra distance loss tools, and the fact you can gamble more means he needs to think a lot more often about when he can just dart an M1 to hit your teammate. 1x is especially hurt by this change, so he had no moves that Guess could block outside of his M1 beforehand, and the fact his M1's reactable really hurts him. Basically just means that the shorter block cooldown bullies him. Distance loss really hurts 1x because distance changes a lot for him, whether your moves are reactable or they're non-reactable. Overall, he's just gonna bully these two killers. John Doe and Nosferatu are interesting. John Doe obviously has a reactable M1, but Error 404 keeps the Guest a lot more in line now that he can't just save his stun for later. Nosferatu, you're worse against in solo chase, but helping teammates, obviously a lot more distance loss tools against the killer, that helps a lot. Overall, he's better at helping teammates with his distance loss tools, but not himself. Meaning for Nosferatu and John Doe, he's better at supporting teammates, but not himself overall. Now you'll notice a pattern, every solo chase for Guess relies even more on gambling blocks now than before. And of course for teammates, he just makes the killer lose distance over and over and over. Overall, when he's helping teammates, I'd describe it more like TAF traps than an actual sentinel most of the time now. Now here's where the philosophy completely falls apart. The devs wanted Guess to stop being so selfish. They wanted him to start being a better teammate, so they added permanent stacking, overheal, and successful blocks. Now think about Chadetsky. He has 180 total HP he can get, 140 and before you have to wait for a cooldown. Now think about how often you see Chadetsky's that extra health for tanking for teammates. You're not going to see it much. Now some people might argue it's because he doesn't have hit priority. But tanking M1s for others is really not that hard. The more simple reason is health is finite. So most players never use it selflessly. Stuns, sure, they'll throw that out for teammates because, you know, Kaza cooldown is going to come back no matter what. Health people are very picky on whether they use it. Guess Overheal is the exact same problem. You might think it's infinite, but over time, at the fastest possible rate, 10 Overheal every 24 seconds. Even if you're hitting block off cooldown, it's going to take you about 3 minutes to reach your Letsky's health pool. The vast majority of players are not going to use that to help others. They're just going to hold on to it as a survivalist trait, and most players are only going to ever use it for teammates maybe in the last 15 seconds, when the win is already locked in if they tank for their teammate no matter what. They tried to remove selfish play, but all they've really done is made it much more efficient if you know what you're doing with it. And then there's actually how it feels to play him, which I feel like not enough people are talking about. To me, even though you have more things you can use in a chase now, it feels like old Guess stopped killers much harder. Like, new Guess just kind of feels like you're inconveniencing them. Like, charge. It used to, like, stop the killer for a bit. It used to give helpless. But now it just kind of feels like a push. Like, oh, It feels like a character in a bar fight, not a US soldier or Robloxia soldier, even though he has like the US thing. Like punch, sure you have a 60-second cooldown, you're punching the kill, but it doesn't really feel that strong. Like it is meaningful, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel very good to use. Like, again, as I said before, he feels like I'm in a bar fight. It feels like I'm just a drunk guy trying to beat up a random killer, bro. It does not feel that fun to use to me. Old Guess had more of a rhythm. You block, you decide whether you want to stun down the line or you want to parry. You charge and get real distance for your teammates and you repeat that. But now it doesn't feel right, you know? Even comboing your charge and punch, it doesn't feel as impactful as old charge felt. So overall, much less satisfying to play. Who is this rework actually for? Now, the only real answer I feel like fits is comp, but obviously it's not for comp. Comp is where people are going to use as much knockback and the real distance they get to the most it can do. Because like in pubs, people aren't maintaining distance perfectly. They lose it all the time. Where they'll actually use the extra overheal to tank for teammates. This isn't happening in pubs. All I can really see that will change in pubs is they'll abuse slopes maybe for punch and they'll abuse slopes for charge, and that's about it that will change. Nothing really realistically changes besides the fact you can't block dash slop. All this rework has really done is made him better for comp players, which they don't care about. Made him better for people who are going to sit in the corner after getting a block to try get a million HP. And not much better for pub player guests trying to actually help their teammates. So now you're not going to do that much more. You can try your best, you'll probably get some success, but overall you're not going to do much better than before. The problem being selfish though, completely unfixed. It's still going to be an issue with Guest as he remains. So I'd say overall this update has failed in what it wants to do, and I really hope to see better in the future. Never mind, this is the greatest update of all time. Oh my god, it's the fucking god!